Snyder's kitchen. Oh, my God. What's up, Bird Brains? John Barchard, Vince Quinn, Taylor Kredatus, all here at Sandbox Studio. And, of course, thank you, Ben, as always. The coffee tastes delicious in the Hertz Donut Cup with the brass knuckles. And I think we're going to need them today. The eternal janitor. Let's try that again, John.
Soon to be eternal janitor, Dan Snyder. Fuck you, Dan.
And also Attorney General of Washington, D.C., who will no longer be there January 2nd because they had an election and a thing happened, but he is finally putting the foot down, and a civil lawsuit has been filed in the District of Columbia for one Dan Snyder and Roger Goodell. Isn't that just beautiful? So the week that the Eagles are playing the Commanders, in case you forgot, that's still happening on Monday night. I know it's going to be 9-0, and we'll be happy about that. But maybe a little distraction for Ron and the boys. What do you make of this, first and foremost?
What do I make of this? What do I make of this? Yeah, this is a colossal clusterfuck for the league. This is a terrible situation for them to be in, and it's exactly where they should be. That's where it is for me. They deserve every bit of this. There's no sympathy for it. Fuck all these people. Dan Snyder, the Commanders, the NFL, Roger Goodell, fuck all of them.
Yeah.
They've enabled this for forever. They've tried to bury it for forever. They've buried a bunch of things for forever, and it's nice that it's being brought up in a public court of law and saying, yes, they do this kind of shit all the time. We've got Dan Snyder for it. We've got mountains of proof for it, and they're going to go get him.
I've got plenty of takes. I know you do, too. One quick house cleaning note just before we get into that. If you didn't see this in our Discord, if you have not seen it on Twitter, if you want to be involved in this show right here that you're listening and watching at, please go to bellandthebirdmen.com because we are officially hiring our first associate producer. How about that? It is, as Vince is going to try and, there it is. See, if we need an associate producer to throw us bells to celebrate that we're actually hiring somebody, as we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Hopefully, not only someone getting fired, but also, maybe a lot of other things happening in D.C. But yes, at $16 an hour, minimum 10 hours, have to be in the Philadelphia area, have to be, around media PA in some regard. But we are looking for a smart bird brain to join the show, essentially. Maybe a little on-mic work. Maybe not, but bellandthebirdmen.com is where you can go apply right now.
Yeah, so we have the application up. It's literally the first thing on bellandthebirdmen.com. So when you get there, we are looking for an associate producer, social media stuff, like John said, being on air, helping us edit certain things. And look, we're just getting into a lot of different shit. I mean, we got soda in front of us here. So we've been talking about the soda. We're going to be out and about at all these different events and the tailgates. So there's a lot of things that you can do. Pretty much anything you've seen us do, heard us do with the show, you would be involved in that behind the scenes, helping us make all of this stuff happen. So really big opportunity. And for us, like, this is a big step for us. You know, it's really awesome and exciting to get to this point where we can actually go, hey, let's hire someone to be a part of this thing.
Possibly travel next year. All that's on the line. Just bellandthebirdmen.com. Want to get to know more about you and to be a part of the show. And the first thing that you have got to understand if you're applying for this job is we've been obsessed with this story for a long time. So, like, this, to me, I don't think we learned much different from, everything that the Washington Post has pretty much said about what's going on with Dan and all this. The only interesting thing here is I made a prediction a couple of weeks ago that I just felt like there's no way that this doesn't end up with Dan leaving and Roger Goodell leaving at the same time. And now that he's named in this lawsuit, which I don't know if we knew coming into this. Did we know that was going to happen?
No, it was not a given at all. I mean, it seemed very obvious Dan Snyder and the Commanders would, as separate entities, essentially together, be brought into this. But the NFL and to have Roger Goodell specifically, that's a stunner.
And they're officially charging them with breaking the Consumer Protection Act, which is a very broad thing to charge somebody with. And it's not criminal. It's all civil. Meaning, like, it is specifically to open up all the can of worms between, what was that weirdo's name? Mary Jo White, who the NFL kind of tried to get into this investigation and try to disrupt whatever D.C. was doing. I believe that's what this press conference is basically about. Is like, whatever you investigated versus whatever we investigated does not match up, and therefore there's obvious collusion going on, is what they said. And because of that, like, the NFL is being accused, and, like, I'm saying accused because that's There's no crimes that have been committed yet, technically, but I mean, come the fuck on. Of course they were colluding here. At least in our opinions, that's exactly what was happening. Roger and everybody else is notorious for covering this crap up and say, nope, look over here. Look at, all these shiny things on the field and like, haha, it's all family fun and nothing's happening. But no, these are years and years of complaints of sexual assault allegations, plus God knows what else that they have found in this investigation, because it's going to be bad. Roger showing that he tried to minimize everything that was happening around this organization, and I feel like they were doing that now to, like, sell the team. You won't go back into this investigation again. It's said and done. Dan's not here. You don't have to disrupt all the other business that was happening. And I just have an inkling that DC wants to go after Goodell. And this is its only opportunity to do it, because Dan's like the surface level here, and that makes sense. But really, I believe this is about Roger Goodell and trying to go after the NFL for once.
So why though? Because that's what I would be curious about. Is why would DC? Because I have a lot of reasons that we can get into why DC is going after Snyder. That's obvious, and there's a lot of shit to talk about with that. But Goodell, what is it like? If I'm DC, why am I going after Roger Goodell specifically?
Because the NFL has had a stranglehold on the game of football for a long time. And if you're doing this shit where you're trying to control all of the bad stuff happening in the, because if this happened to Dan Snyder and they're doing this for sure as shit has happened in other franchises. And I'm just going with the other ones that have been around the longest. Jerry has done something like this. There is probably no doubt about that. I am sure that somebody in the Raiders has done something like this, and they have colluded to go through the Giants from way long ago when there's partying on boats. The Vikings, when they did the same thing, and there was accusations around, man, I can't even remember the coach at the time, but it was somebody when it was before Leslie Frazier and all that.
The boat party.
The boat party.
Oh my God!
Exactly.
Yeah.
We forget about all these like little things that have popped up over franchises with dirty ass owners. The misogyny that's gone on to, like, the old boys club is still here. So if this is just one instance in DC where they can open this up, and let's just open this whole thing up here.
Sure.
St. Louis just got done with a case settling with the NFL for all the shit that they tried to pull from St. Louis to the LA and ripping that apart. Like, the NFL has made enemies in basically every city. And if you're giving attorney generals, if you're giving an opportunity to open up the door to one team's books and it links to another team just for happenstance, and we know that Dan Snyder's emails are already leaking to, like, Gruden and all this other stuff. You've got 3 lawsuits against the NFL running simultaneously. Some of them are criminal. Most of them are civil. It's just time to go after it. It's an easy layup for all of these AGs, essentially. Like, if there is... the only thing that's protecting Jerry Jones is probably the hub around Dallas or whatever. Like, it happens here in Philadelphia too. Like, there are things that get covered up all the time through money exchange, through, like, let's die down on these particular, like, it's just the nature of the business. So that's what I think could possibly be at stake here, is the government itself wants to finally go after the NFL, its antitrust laws and all that. It at least opens the door for possibility, and they're going to deal with Dan first.
Well, and it opens the opportunity if you are the XFL, the USFL, and all this stuff is coming around, and you're going, hey, if we're trying to go to war here, this is the time. Because, like you said, the NFL, they're under siege, man. I mean, it's just they gave up hundreds of $1 million to do that the LA with the Rams. That all just happened, right? Then you have the John Gruden lawsuit. That is against the NFL. You have the Brian Flores lawsuit. That is against the NFL. This is now their 3rd major lawsuit. They've also got the investigation into Washington's books. So that's being run out of D.C. Those are 4 investigations. And Dan Snyder's a part of 3 of them. Because if Gruden emails... then this one that we're talking about today with the press conference, and then the investigation into the tickets. That 3. So if you're looking for the weakest point that the NFL's had in a long time, this is it.
It's right now. And, like, with Dan alone, they're going to have to go through another name change. They're going to have to build another stadium, and the government's going to want its cut. And if you've been cooking the books for this long, and there's already like an SEC investigation in some sort happening between, I think, the Commanders right now as well, like, man, they're going to want their money. If you've been hiding money amongst owners have been hiding money within the ecosystem of the NFL, fuck yeah, they're going to push this. Absolutely they are. Why wouldn't they? Why would the next AG not want to pick up this case and be like, dude, this is a slam dunk for me?
Which is exactly what they should do. Like, that's why if I'm the Attorney General in D.C., this is a no-duh situation. Like, think about this. All these stadiums, pretty much every single one of them is funded by taxpayer dollars.
Yep.
So when
not anymore.
There's a lot of them.
I feel like recent.
SoFi in LA is probably not. I think the LA stadium is privately funded and they went all in on that. But most
because
of these
they got
stadiums,
casino money.
Well, and
everyone's getting casino money to build new stuff.
Well, and that's why they moved markets to go and do that. Because if you can privately own it at this point, and if I was the NFL, I would start leaning away from having taxpayer money because it does open you to these things, and that's exactly what it is. You've got DC taxpayer money. It's going to the Washington Commanders. It's getting abused. The workers are getting abused. They say we're going to investigate this. They don't. They bury it. And now they have to go after them and say, look, you've lied to the public, and you've been using our tax dollars. You can't do that, and you have to be held accountable, which is why they do the lawsuit.
Yeah.
So all of that comes together. But yeah, they've taken money from everybody everywhere all the time. That's how all the modern era and boom of the NFL has been in a lot of ways linked to taxpayer money going into all of these stadiums. It's made the league. So you have to do this. And for all these other cities, yeah, there are going to be opportunities with all these investigations and different emails and back channels. Who knows what the fuck they're going to dig up, man.
And if you know a past time that we're forgetting right now, 215-509-5833 on the text line. I can't remember a position where the NFL has been this much in a corner where it has to produce documents. I can't remember that. And at least not publicly. It's probably been handled privately many times throughout like our football fandom, but I can't remember a time where like the government is pressing the NFL to be like, what did you do to cover this up?
Yeah, well, the last time this happened to a degree that I can remember is Spygate.
And that to me is more integrity of the game and like a bunch of people trying to stretch it to get in. See, and that is very like the worst way to approach an antitrust law, right? If you're like, hey, you were helping the Patriots cheat, I mean, that's really hard to prove. But if money and investigations happen, I think they've been trying to do. They've been jealous of the NFL's money for a long time. A long time. It controls probably more than we honestly believe. So,
well,
yeah,
of course.
This is going to be really ugly in a couple of months.
It has to be, because look, if I'm in D.C., especially, think about this. Dan Snyder is one of the most powerful people in Washington. Yeah. Right? Like, he is the owner of a multi-billion-dollar, whether you believe the evaluation of like $5 billion or not, it's worth multiple $1 billion. He's an NFL owner. It's an exclusive club. Everybody wants to be there. As immediately as it becomes a rumor, Jeff Bezos and Jay-Z, and Matthew McConaughey too, but Jeff Bezos and Jay-Z get together to try to own the team. They're having these private dinners and closing restaurants and all that shit to talk in private about this.
Now,
so, like,
hold on. Close your eyes, guys. Can you imagine any of those three guys as NFL owners? I can't.
Yeah. Oh, I easily can. McConaughey is like a minority owner to me. He just has like 5%.
He likes the Longhorns too much.
That's what I'm saying. He's a college football guy. Jay-Z, I don't see as an owner. I just don't see it. Like, I just don't see him as an NFL owner.
Oh, no. Jay-Z is I think he's just kind of a conqueror. You know what I mean? Like, he just wants he wants parts of everything on the highest levels. He just wants to be in all of it.
And Bezos just wants to be Jeff Bezos, and I don't want that here either. It's like
he wants it to be Amazon presents the NFL. I mean, really.
Which is, by the way, we clarified that. It is very possible. It is 100% possible for him to stream games, be an owner. It's weird. It's unprecedented, but there's no rules against it.
No, and of course the NFL's going to want
antitrust?
There is no rule that states that he can have the broadcasting rights to Thursday Night Football and also own a football team.
Owner's not going to let that pass.
Probably, they'll probably want to share, right? They'll want a revenue share, whatever that
but
is.
then Jeff Bezos is going to go, listen, you know all that merchandise you sell on Amazon.com?
Yep.
You know all my shipping resources and all those drones I'm going to have doing deliveries? Yeah, I'm going to bring all that to the league. Go fuck yourselves.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
How about this, assholes? I'm going to have a drone fly over the Commander Stadium. If somebody wants it in their seat, I'm going to drop it right in their seat. And I'm going to do that for 31 other franchises. Fuck you.
Yeah, I'm going to update all of your stadiums with that technology where you don't have to go to a register. You won't have any employees. People will just walk in.
They're already doing that anyway. Have you seen that as we've been traveling? Like literally in Houston, there's a beer place that you go in, you go out, you don't have to use your credit card or anything.
There was a spot in Washington. As well.
There
was that one spot you could get like nachos and you just put it down and it would be like evaluating weight. And then it would just like say, oh, okay, this is nachos. You can go for $5.50.
Real quick, I have a gripe with Houston. I was dying that day. I couldn't find Powerade.
Oh, yeah,
in
nowhere.
the entire stadium. And they had every other fucking Coke product possible.
No Gatorade, no Powerade, nothing.
At a sports stadium.
But they had $15 margaritas and $8 waters. So there you go.
There's my tangent. I forgot.
There you
I
go.
love it.
A
It's
wonderful
good
place.
tangent. But and to a point where like I think Bezos could be like, you're going to be able to see the first down line when you show up at the stadium and not just the chain gang. Like so I could see it from a tech standpoint. But again, just closing my eyes, I can't see any of those three guys being like, that's an NFL owner.
See, I can see it, and I mean, Jeff Bezos is one of the most powerful people on earth. Of course, he wants to be an NFL owner.
Yeah.
It's just, but that's again the power of all this and the gravity of all of it, and why it's so important. Like, if I'm in DC and I'm dealing with Dan Snyder, who has this valuable asset, and he's sitting there. I mean, look, he's unappreciative of everything, of his status and what it means within the city and what he can get from that. If he didn't run a dog shit organization, he wouldn't be in this situation.
Right.
Like, he doesn't have winning football. He doesn't take care of the stadium that he's got. He treats all the people like shit. I imagine every negotiation he's ever had with anybody in government about anything, he's been a total shitbag. So they see a situation like this, they go, wow, he's fucking around with the money, and we can see that. Like, he's treating all these people poorly, and we can sue him for millions of dollars. They're going to do it because they see all of these other things that he's connected to.
Yep.
This is DC's chance to get Dan Snyder out. And if they're desperate to do it, which they must have been pretty much from the moment he took over, then they had to do this because it's more, I think it's for them, it's about putting as much pressure on the league as possible to force this guy out. And by doing this and putting him to the fire, they're going to do it.
Which is, what I'm already thinking too. And, okay, I can see how the NFL is going to wiggle themselves out. I'll tell you that in 1 second because we don't, again, for the third show in a row, have no Liquid Death in studio. We were even at the 320 market here in media, which I know sells all the varieties of Liquid Death, and stupidly, I didn't even grab one there either. So what you need to do is just go to liquiddeath.com/bell to find out where you can find the nearest place to go get Liquid Death. I know me, 7-Eleven. It's right down the street. Maybe want it shipped directly from the site there. That'll take you there too. Amazon, Whole Foods. There's a local Giant by me that I know I'm starting to see it in there. So ShopRite,
yeah.
Absolutely. Rite Aid, I believe you're in there too. Still not Wawa, you dicks. But liquiddeath.com/bell helps the podcast, helps you find Liquid Death. I think that this is pretty easy then, because all Roger has to do is, you're right, sacrifice this limb. And that is exactly what he's going to do, and then he's going to leave. He won't ever be, tied up in court. This is a shakedown. Get rid of Dan. Let's get the owner that I want in here that represents DC, and this will all go away. Right?
It's certainly going to help. And for Goodell's situation, too, there's been rumors that he would get out of this job when his next contract expired, which I think is like 2025.
Yeah.
So consider the situation. It gets pretty ugly here. If it is a trade-off, like you've suggested before, you were dead on with that Dan Snyder goes out, Goodell goes out. For Goodell, look, he's going to get a golden parachute of some kind. All of the owners will thank him on the way out. It's not going to be acrimonious in any way.
Right.
And he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. They'll figure out somebody else to come in and do the job. They probably already thought about that for years anyway. So he'll be fine. But then, yeah, that allows Washington to get another owner in there that gets this valuable franchise, builds it back up again. I mean, the dollar value that the league is missing with the revenue sharing every year, because that team sucks so much and has for so long, they're staring at those margins and going, we're losing millions of dollars a year. So they're dying to get another guy in there. And if that means Roger Goodell goes away in the next year or so, and Goodell, and this is where it's going to be interesting too, is will Goodell, and to what degree will he throw Snyder under the bus with all this stuff if he can?
I think he's like
he's
dying
got
to,
right?
Yeah. If Jim Irsay comes out and says that crap, like that's basically Roger Goodell speaking for everybody too.
Because he's got the blackmail on Goodell was the other report.
Yeah.
So if he's got blackmail on Roger Goodell, which leads to Roger Goodell saying, yes, we will work with you and bury all of this stuff, and we're just going to try to get this to go away. Oh, the government's all over us now, and this is going to be all through the public papers. Okay, well, now fuck you, Dan, and here's how we're going to turn it around to really push you out.
Is there any scenario, Taylor and Vince, where you could see Roger Goodell getting out of this judgment zone here, that like he's just a piece of shit and will dampen any investigative anything? Like, is there something that has to come out to be like, okay, he's got to go? Because even if he's colluding with Dan Snyder and that is proven in a civil court, I don't know. Like, it's still a reasonable thought to be like, well, the owners would still keep him there as long as he doesn't have to go out legally, right?
Well, if that was it, yeah. If it was just this case, for this with the collusion, yeah, he'd keep the job. But
does it have to be a golden sombrero? Like he's got to lose every single case. The Flores case, this one,
it's about how bad it gets. Everything with the NFL is about temperature, right? They are highly reactionary to how the public feels, and they try to do things to convince the public that everything's fine as fast as possible to move on, whether they give a shit or not, which 99% of the time they do not give a shit. They just want it to go away. So that's exactly what they would do. But the problem is you do have all of these lawsuits. So if it turns out that, hey, if I'm Brian Flores, I'm going to war. I'm going to war. Why not? What do you have to lose? I mean,
Nothing
seriously,
now.
He might as well do it, especially stuff like Jeff Saturday getting hired. His case gets stronger by the day.
Yes.
It really does. So they're going to go after the league. Goodell's going to look really bad for that. All the racial relations and things, to do that for years potentially in the public eye is a really bad place to be. Like, there just comes some point where it's easier for the NFL to go, listen, Roger Goodell's going to go away. We're going to settle all of these different cases. Everybody go back to where you were. We need to stabilize.
Can't wait to see this clown show. It's just whatever comes out in this is going to be, hopefully, jaw-dropping for everybody, because this always tends to happen. These major stories like this is worse than any NFL story that I can remember being a fan. Any of them, in terms of what is behind this door, just with this franchise alone, and what it could open up past that, because there's been a lot of sick shit that the NFL has just let go, and I could name every domestic violence case that has ever happened, or any time that there's been a murder, or whatever it is. I just feel like there's so many things behind this door that it's going to be impossible to look at the NFL any other way for a very long time if everyone does their job right. And that's the only thing I don't know. It's to me, it's the hardest place for the NFL to get out of, but it's still really hard to pin down if you're walking into a civil place with the hopes of getting criminal charges out of this. Really hard to do.
It is. They're going to have to see what they can stretch, because the tough thing is when it's a lot of individual versus individual, and that's what the AG said in the press conference today. They don't have jurisdiction over that. You know, it's up to the individuals in those cases to press the charges that are commensurate for whatever's happened. So they do not have say over that. They're just Consumer Protection Act in this case. But when you think about how all of this stuff piles up together, I mean, man, dude, think about all these emails, right? The John Gruden emails and everything with Dan Snyder, all of that in Washington's front office, they're going to have access to that. Everything now back and forth with the league and Roger Goodell. If there's any blackmail that Dan Snyder has that has been mentioned in those emails, that could come to light in court in this case.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so many, because if I was an AG and I saw evidence of blackmail, I can go, here's this statement, here's Roger Goodell being very friendly to Dan Snyder. Clearly, he threatened Goodell to do this, and it all comes out in court. Like, that's the problem for the NFL. They can't have these things regularly leaked and discussed and analyzed in the public.
Yeah.
Because if it gets to a point where this is in court and it's presented day in and day out and there's cameras everywhere, which they're going to be everywhere, that's a nightmare scenario.
And and by the way, just as we've been recording this this is about 2 hours after the press conference actually happened. ESPN, minimal coverage, NFL.com, minimal coverage.
You mean they're partners?
Yes, they're partners. All just like, yep, there was Q&A. I even heard, and like, I would never, ever say this about this man, Clinton Yates, who I respect dearly. Shitty questions today, man. Shitty ass questions from ESPN.
It's not surprising.
Not surprising at all. And
Off the field stuff, not surprising.
Not surprising.
Let's be honest.
No.
Yeah, man. We're never. It's gonna come up in like a big swell because there's gonna be. It's just all coming from independent reporters, local beats, stuff like that. Like, I can't imagine what this team is thinking coming into Philadelphia on a Monday night. What are they gonna Are they actually gonna cover this on Monday Night Football?
No.
Oh, no.
Because that's the only story coming into this game. Who cares about anything else? What could you possibly sell me that's going to make it interesting for Monday Night Football with Joe Buck and Aikman? Nothing. They're going to kill this team, right? There's no. That's why we're not even previewing this game. Who cares? If they lose this game, holy shit. That'll be the story. But until then, you traded for Carson Wentz. You're dealing with all these lawsuits. I still feel like the entire league has been dealing with this.
They are.
The entire league is dealing with this, and that's why the Eagles are so far ahead of everybody. They're like as clean as a clean can be for NFL parameters.
It's a well-run franchise. I mean, just top to bottom, it is. But thank Julian for that. Now, Julian, you're welcome on the show anytime. So it's been a while since I've reiterated that.
Yeah,
so I just wanted to say.
Yes.
But yeah, like everybody's dealing with all that different stuff. If I'm Monday Night Football, I'm going to talk about it for 10 seconds. And there's some drama with Dan Snyder in the courts. They're not going to like break it down. They have no interest to do that. For what point?
Yeah, none of it.
Yeah, so they're going to brush over all this stuff as best they can. But that is the biggest story. I mean, it is the biggest story for the league right now. And they do want him out, but if this is going to be the cost where all these different behind-the-scenes things of what kind of money they're actually making, what has not been given to taxpayers, and all the other consequential lawsuits that can pop up as a result of that. I mean, they could get sued in 31 other cities if the money's not right.
Can we make a fake prop? Will Dan Snyder be mentioned during the broadcast?
Ooh. 0.5 over under?
Yeah, 0.5 seconds.
Oh, I just meant times. Like,
yeah. No. I meant in general.
Okay. I'm going to say, they have to. They can't not say his name.
I would say they're going to spend less than 20 seconds.
I will say his name is mentioned at least 2 times during the broadcast.
Yeah.
At least 2 times during the broadcast, not during halftime. Like, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman will mention Dan Snyder's situation twice before the game ends. What do you think?
Once.
And Taylor's going,
unless they win. If they win, then it's going to be, and despite all of the things, like they will say it then. But otherwise, it's going to be.
All right, how about, during game time.
Only
not
during game time.
or post.
No pre, no post, no halftime show mention. Yes, I'd say more than 2 times.
Once as vague as possible. Yeah, you heard there were some reports down there in D.C. with the ownership, and we'll see where that goes. All right, back to the offensive line.
They're going to have to talk about it because the Eagles are going to be up fucking 31-3, and there's nothing to talk about.
That would be the best if it was such a blowout. If it was such a blowout that eventually Collinsworth just looks over and goes like, so they're going to get fined a couple million, right? Like it's just going to.
Or like the Manning cast has got to have somebody on to bring it up, or, somebody's going to say something.
How long do they have to dance around it? Like,
oh yeah, that's going to be so bad.
They're up 3 touchdowns. They're just like,
well, here I'll make a side bet. I don't think it gets mentioned once on the pregame show.
Oh, easy.
Yay or nay?
Easy.
Studio
Not
pregame?
Once. Not
yes.
Stussy Kober, not Randy Moss, not
People
Adam
on the
Schefter,
fields.
not Mort. No one.
And an analyst will side mention it as well and brush it off. And they'll be like, "Hey, I know there's a lot of other stuff going on," and that's all they'll say. It's going to be
now,
that simple.
Does that count as mentioning it?
Kind of.
Taylor, Does that count?
We all know what it means.
We all know what it means, but they won't say the specific
Which
word.
is
That's my
exactly
bad.
why they'll do it, and that's the best way to
Here's
do
a
it.
better
Because
way.
then they'll say, no, we referenced it.
They won't mention Dan Snyder is in trouble in any form of literal. Like, they won't mention Dan Snyder's in trouble.
No.
Yeah.
Will lawsuit and Dan Snyder be in the same sentence?
Yeah, no. Nope. It'll be lawsuit Commanders, lawsuit Washington. Roger will not be mentioned either. So that's my that's
definitely not Goodell. There's no way they're mentioning the league and Goodell being in the lawsuit. They would say Snyder if they wanted to, but that's about it.
Now, I know I promised I'd fire everybody up because we're a little depressed from the World Series and all that other stuff, but, like, this story is way too good. This story is way too good. I'm going to wait another week just because, like, this took the wind out of my sail for Monday night. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know about you guys. Like, just go win this fucking game and let's get ready for the real season, because the real season starts after Monday night for me. Like, you've got it's Indy, Chicago, the Giants.
You're going to be playing Dallas again.
The Packers are in there. Dallas is in there. Good. Now we're going to know, like, first round bye or not. And I hope it's a quick one. I hope that, like, we just get to spend a million hours ripping Dan Snyder left and right on our live stream, which will be up and ready right at 8:15 p.m. from the Gatehouse at the Navy Yard, which is where the tailgate and watch party is happening, from 4:30 to 7. That's all going on in terms of the tailgate. And then just hang out, baby. Hang out and stick around. It is one of the best times down there. If you don't have tickets to the game, or you're not sure of a place to go watch, you can hear the fireworks, the crowd, 10, 15 seconds before you see the play happen. And you're like, oh, man, it's tipping. It's the best kind of tipping, because you get to hear the roar of the crowd, the fireworks going off, and good shit happens there. So come down and hang out.
Yeah,
right, Vince Quinn?
It's only good tipping is the nice side. And here's the other thing. You're on the nice side of 95.
That is very true.
Because when you leave the Navy Yard, you think, oh, my God, I'm in the Navy Yard. I'm going to be stuck in all that stadium traffic. Actually, that is not the case. If you go from the Navy Yard, you walk out, and as soon as you go towards 95, you're on the other side of all of the traffic that can't access
76 as well,
where the Navy Yard is. So you can sneak in for me 95, for you 76, and you can get right out of there. I mean, you save an hour and a half of time in the lot.
Not to mention the money, too, because it's free parking at the Navy Yard, and it's a 12-minute walk to the link. So, like, I don't know how people aren't doing that on every sporting event, but you should be doing
on.
It. Good.
I'm seeing a lot more cars down there.
Good. If you want to know all about the tailgate, just go to phillysportstrips.com/bell, and it'll be up there. It's one of just a few more down there, because, we got to get ready for the playoffs. It's pretty amazing. So if you forgot all this, bellandthebirdmen.com. We're hiring an associate producer to go and apply. $16 an hour. Pretty good starting. Our hats are available there, too. Our shirts are available there as well. And, of course, like I said, it's where you can buy your tailgate tickets and all that fun stuff as well. So, Vince Quinn, anything else before we say goodbye?
Fuck you, Dan.
Yeah, fuck you, Dan. For Taylor Kredatus, for Vince Quinn, I'm John Barchard. Yeah, saying for the third time, fuck you, Dan. It's Bell and the Birdmen. We'll see you later. Okay, bye.